Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 81 of Speaking from the Heart. Have you been shifting your friendships, maybe even your attitudes, in a positive or negative direction? Have you been dealing with the things that you used to enjoy as something that is no longer something that you really enjoy doing? Do you feel that your taste, let alone the aspirations that you once had, have been shifting in a bad way and you need to get refocused again? Well, this episode might be for you because today we're going to talk about some of the things that you have been through, whether they are negative, whether they are positive, regardless of what it is. Maybe some of the things that you used to enjoy are no longer the things that you want to deal with. And maybe the things that you used to enjoy from a cultural standpoint no longer are interesting in your cultural aptitude. Maybe some of the things that you used to enjoy involved some sort of environmental, social, personal, or professional change. But regardless of what you've been through, I know that it can be disheartening at times to go through these changes and not quite sure why those attitudes have been happening in the first place. Maybe you were shifting and you didn't even realize it. You might be going through something that is tumultuous in nature, and maybe that's why the temporary changes that are happening might be occurring in the first place. And you'll be right back to where you were, that you really enjoy all the things that you used to do once you get through that hard period of your life. But I know that you might not be the only person that might be feeling the way that I feel sometimes when it comes to some of the types of things that I used to enjoy. Lately, I've been noticing a lot more about my ability of being able to focus. Whether it's been focusing on the reading that I'm doing for work or even reading for pleasure, let alone the different types of interests that I have with television that I watch, the people that I interact with, maybe even the time span or the time management to be able to accomplish some of the things that I need to accomplish. And I think that it's all part of the way in which we evolve. Whether we are evolving for a good reason or not, this is always a natural progression of the things that happen to us as we get older. And no, I'm not saying that you're an old fart at this point, let alone saying to you that you need to retire and stop thinking about it that way and just slap yourself back into shape. Because all those things not only are rude and cruel, but they're not really addressing the heart of what's really happening in the first place. I think that we often have these relationships with people, places, and things that we used to enjoy because they always bring back some sort of good memory. For example, I know that growing up, I always enjoyed going to the library that was in my school, that is. It always seemed to be quiet. It was always a natural feeling of euphoria being able to walk in and see all the variety different types of books that were available. Of course, during the times I went to school, the personal computer, let alone computers in general, were really starting to become more trendy. Instead of looking through a card catalog, which I used to do back in the 90s, I was able to, in the early 2000s, be able to use a personal computer to research and find a book that was on the bookshelf. But I know that for many people, libraries are not usually the best places to find fond memories. Regardless of what it is or the place that you enjoy the most, we always have to have a shift in our lives that allow us to not only create those best versions of ourselves in order to reach that next level, because usually age requires us to, but we also have to figure out why that shift happened in the first place. The same people that we used to hang out with are no longer the people that we want to be associated with. And I've had plenty of friends, whether from high school, college, or even contemporary times, just ghost me. They no longer talk to me. They have kids now. Or they just grew tired of hearing about Speaking from the Heart, Your Speaking Voice LLC, or some other sort of thing or project that I'm working on, whether it's Toastmasters or not. I think that it isn't just about ignoring what someone's going through, and it isn't just about ignoring what you might have on your social media, let alone what you even talk about. People tend to evolve into different types of other relationships just because of the interests, perceptions, and other types of factors that might go into a relationship with someone, whether it's a romantic relationship, friendship, or other type of professional courtesy that's extended. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And I know that for myself, I struggled with that so much, being even neurodivergent for that matter, because I took it personally. What did I do wrong that allowed this person to walk away from me? What did I do wrong that allowed that person to also walk away from me? Why does this keep happening to me? That question would always play in my mind time and time again. And I know that it probably wasn't me, but maybe it was the attitude that I had, so I changed my attitude. No, that didn't work either. It always seemed that I was always addressing or dealing with all kinds of different types of people, different types of relationships, and even different factors. To be intentional about a relationship with someone, whether it's a friendship or not, and to change your attitude, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, means that you actually got to put some effort into it. But is that really representing who you really are? The very essence of becoming the best version of yourself. I know that we've often asked that question about the best version and what we are able to do to create that. But we also have to understand that the people that we associate with, the activities that we engage in, let alone the different types of life events that happen to us growing up, all create a positive or negative influence on our whole entire lives. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that as you get older that you have these evolving tastes, that maybe they're not aligning with the same people that you used to associate with. It doesn't mean that you are a person that doesn't want to be hung out with. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person as a whole. Whether it's intentional or not, you have to start accepting that maybe it's okay for that change to happen. Many years ago, I had a friend that I used to know in high school that sometimes I would have conversations with him, sometimes I would not. It was because he had different interests than what I had. And after high school, I sometimes had kept in touch with him, sometimes not. But then something happened to him that really shocked me and fellow classmates that knew him very well from high school. You see, he went on to school and he met somebody and murdered them. That person that he was with was obviously a romantic relationship in which he killed that person for motives that I still don't understand to this day. And even as I reflect on it, I often think, what is that person thinking? Because they were not that type of person in the past. Obviously, there's a lot of things that I didn't know about him that motivated him to do that action, one of the heinous crimes of human society. Now, he's been in prison for all these years, paying his debt for his crime. And I often think to myself, what could I have done differently to be able to interact with him and maybe even appreciate the type of person that he is? As much as I can speculate about what some of the things he could have done differently, I still don't have all the information, even from a coaching perspective, to be able to assist him. And it's funny because for some people, going through some of these situations, especially of a traumatic loss, which is not funny at all, it still creates some of those conversations within ourselves that ask the question, why did that attitude in that person change? What can we do within our control to really help that person, or even ourselves for that matter, to create that opportunity for ourselves to be listened to, cared about, and maybe, just maybe, be able to be influenced in a more positive way. Now, I know that for many of us, we have a lot of different things that we need to be able to work on that create not just those attitudes so that we don't go down that nasty path, not only that nasty situation that might cause us to rethink and really hurt other people's feelings, emotions, let alone maybe even the things that they're struggling with. But if you really think about the bigger scheme of things, especially with somebody like my classmate that murdered somebody else, obviously there was a lot of hurt, pain, suffering, and other sort of emotions and attitudes going through that particular type of person. I know that for many of us, we really are compassionate listeners. And we're going to talk about that in a future episode, and I know that we've even talked about it in some context on past episodes. But to be intentional about listening to somebody else is really an art form in its own, with not just the things that we are dealing with, but also the things that are changing around us. Oh yes, the environmental aspect as a whole. The things that we read, the people that we hang out with, and even the activities, they will all evolve in one way or another. What we used to enjoy doing at one time may no longer be applicable to our future selves. So we have to fill the void with those different types of things that do give us that enrichment. But the real question becomes, have you been intentional about spending time to do just that? Have you been able to work on new activities that will allow you to feel like you're living and breathing? Have you read books that are helping you to enrich, empower, and inspire? Are you listening or even hanging out or associating with people that allow you to create not just those relationships, but also those abilities that maybe you would have not been able to unlock all by yourself? I think this is a very tough question, a very tough proposition in this episode to really start exploring all of those different types of concepts, and I would definitely need a lot more time to explore those different avenues. But I want to answer this in a way in which might be universal in application, let alone help you, especially if you feel that you're not living that life that you wanted to live for so long. Maybe you are struggling with some of the things that you used to do, and maybe you need to get back on track. I think that for many of us, it's just about being able to take that time, reflect on it, journal about it, ask the appropriate questions so that we can be able to get back on track on the things that we really want to do. But it's not just about what we need to do. It's about really understanding why we deviated from that path in the first place and getting back on track when it counts the most. And I know that for many of us, we can work with a coach, we can figure out what's going on, we can address those sort of problems. But it's a lot more to be able to say to yourself and reflect intentionally about what you need to do to create those best opportunities for yourself. Start asking those questions today, and maybe you can start to figure out how to get back on track. But on the other side of this, you need to also think about the fact that maybe, just maybe, those interests are no longer serving you. For many years of my life, I had been moving away from a lot of different things. Toastmasters, doing Rotary, might have been something in the cards, but not so much. I also have been thinking about how I can use my talents to now volunteer in a new organization in which I had left the Shalom House late last year, and now have to figure out a new volunteer opportunity that I really want to give back with my talents and my gifts. But I know that I have to keep asking those questions and keep reflecting on what's in my heart to be able to share with others, to be able to increase my visibility, to be able to advocate and reaffirm the fact that I have been trying so hard to work on myself. Because my new identity, the things that I've been working on myself, even after I started my business earlier last year, have been an important aspect in my overall development of myself, let alone others for that matter. I know that it can be very easy for us to forget about what has happened in the past and just shuffle it under the rug. But for some of us, we really do value those relationships with people, and we really want to have them back. Now, I'm not saying today that maybe you need to call that old friend or that old chum of yours to be able to say, hey, when do you have time available to you so that we can hang out? Everybody grows in a lot of different ways, and as an old best friend that I recently connected with said, things happen for a reason. It's okay to not be able to talk to me all the time, as I can't talk to you all the time because of my differing responsibilities and priorities now in my life. I think that if we just have that understanding, that appreciation, that we do go through those different types of life events, not only are we able to get to the other side, but we might be able to even rekindle some of those past feelings, emotions, relationships that we have with others. And it doesn't make you a bad person if you're not able to form those relationships ever again. I have always believed that it's really important to understand that things happen for a reason. They all have their divine time and their intervention in our lives. So even if you're feeling that maybe you should have connected to that person, maybe you should have been able to work on that relationship a little bit better, or maybe even have a different attitude towards that type of person or that experience that you're going through, just know that not everything happens for a reason. Maybe you were dodging a bullet, and maybe you would have been one of my friends that was in jail. Maybe you were dealing with that. I think that you have a lot of different things going on in your life that might have caused you to deviate from a different path. And as much as I want to speculate about my friend who's still sitting in prison, I want them to know that maybe if they're listening to this, that I give them some inspiration today that might be related to you. No matter what kind of mistake you made, even if it's the heinous crime of murder, we can all be forgiven if we're willing to repent, recuse, and move on. And know that even with people that we have hurt, we can still make big differences in trying to make a big difference in other people's lives, knowing that we have those mistakes that we have made behind us. And even if it's intentional or not that we forget about those different types of people, know that we can accept change for what it is, and that even if it's not in our control, or if it's in our control, we can have evolving tastes in not only the environmental, cultural, social, personal, or professional aspects of our lives, but that we can always have that age-old question of why is this change happening be resolved by just knowing that we are authentic, evolving human beings. And hey, it's okay to have a new hobby, and maybe even have a new adventure for that matter. I know that I'm looking forward to having new relationships, new attitudes, and new ways in which I can create my best version of myself and the values that I provide to others. Because the world is our own tapestry. If we're able to keep on working on that tapestry to help each other, whether we are able to connect or not, I think that's what's making progress. Progress in itself can create so many different types of opportunities, aspirations, and attitudes in ourselves to help us not only grow, but foster a whole new generation of other people to do just the same. So keep on working on yourself, and don't worry about what's happening in the past, because it's always about what's happening in the present and what is happening in the future that allows you to become not just that awesome person that you are, but maybe even helping other people along the way, even if you think that they are forgotten. Because they are looking at you, one way or another. And don't worry, even if they are taking notes, just pay attention to who you are. And maybe I'll see you on the other side of not only improving yourself, but improving others. Thanks for listening to episode number 81 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.